Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 8th, 2024 legislative session of the town of Ossining. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gregory Meyer,
Present.
Councilmember Jennifer Filter-Wheel,
Present.
Councilmember Angelo Manicchio.
Here.
Councilmember Matthew Wines,
Present.
Supervisor Elizabeth Feldman.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor and Town Board announcements.
Okay. On September 27th, I attended the Hudson Valley Regional Council Conference in Peekskill, and the town received an award for our commitment to the Westchester Climate Action Planning Institute. And I thought we were getting one for reaching bronze, but this one's more about participating in the climate action planning, which you can find on the top of our website. Okay, Senator Pete Harcum will be honoring outstanding members of the community, including our very own Reverend Jennifer Rodriguez of the First Presbyterian Church of Ossining. This event will be held at 6 p.m. Thursday, October 10th at the Hendrick Hudson Free Library in Montrose. The Project Mover e-bike program is going to be celebrating a ribbon cutting on the corner of Spring and Main Streets. It'll be taking place Wednesday, October 9th at 4:30 p.m., so tomorrow at 4:30. If you're interested in learning more about Project Mover or how to use the e-bikes, please visit projectmoverbikeshare.com. The Sing Sing Prison Museum is hosting a publication celebration of a new book, The Sing Sing Files, One Journalist, Six Innocent Men, and a 20-year-long fight for justice. For more information, please visit singsingprisonmuseum.org. Westchester Collaborative Theater is starting their fall classes. Please visit the website, wcttheater.org, for the schedule and more information. On October 9th, Westchester will be hosting the Diverse Abilities Job Fair at the Westchester County Center. There's a QR code to register as either a job seeker or provider on my supervisor's update. T-Town will be running a Fantastic Fossils event this Saturday, October 12th, 1 p.m. for National Fossil Day. Who knew? This upcoming Sunday, October 13th, will be the last Jug Tavern walking tour of the year. The tour goes into the detailed history of the Sparta homes over the past 200 years. We highly recommend calling in advance as spaces are limited. Hope Store Advisory Council is hosting a hopeful evening in observance of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The event is to fundraise in order to help fight against domestic violence and protect our community. It will be held on October 16th at 6 p.m. For more information, please visit the Hope Store website or Facebook. The Community Center, in collaboration with Westchester Collaborative Theater, will be running a Haunted Kill Friday, October 18th, from 6 to 10 p.m. Attractions include the Trail of Terror and live music. I hear good things. On Saturday, October 19th at 10 a.m., the Ossining Rec Department is running the Pet Parade. Come dressed up in costume with your dog, starting at Lewis Ingle Park and concluding at Henry Gordine Park. On Sunday, October 20th, the Westchester County Department of Emergency Services will be hosting the Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service at 10 a.m. They are inducting one of our own, Rohan. Sustainable Westchester will be hosting a Westchester Power Information Session on October 21st at noon and at 7 p.m. on Google Meet. Scan the QR code on my supervisor's update or visit their website to register. Westchester Collaborative Theater is presenting Terror Tales. The short story play festival will begin on the weekend of October 25th at 8 p.m. For more information, please visit wcttheater.org. Community Center will be hosting a special needs Halloween night out on October 30th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Crafts, snacks, and games for the children and their caretaker. And as always, the Austining Public Library has a bevy of events, including movies, craft events, meditation, tutoring, yoga, book clubs. Actually saw a sewing club last night and more. Please see their website at austininglibrary.org for more information. And the Loft LGBTQ Plus Community Center has events and programs and resources, presentations, all dedicated to providing support to everyone who is a part of the community. Check out their website at loftgaycenter.org for more information. They have a whole bunch of great events coming up. All right, do any of my colleagues have anything? Thank you.
Thank you. Liaison reports? No. Okay, presentation. Presentation by Walter, WB 30 Water Street LLC regarding proposed payment to lien of taxes agreement for 30 Water Street project.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight. We appreciate it. Bill Balter, founder and president of WBP Development, former Village of Austining resident. About a year ago. So recently you had we are the developers of development on the former DPW site known as Station Plaza. Jim, Jim is here. Jim Wenley is our chief operating officer of the company as well, and Jim's been really leading our effort on this development. I don't want to take a ton of your time, but I thought I might just really quickly run through what the development is and then sort of tell you why we're here. Did you load it up? So in 2019, about 5 years ago, Village of Austining did an RFQ that we responded to with a bunch of other developers, and we were selected. We redeveloped this 3.4 acre site on the old DPW property. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that property. It's a very interesting property in that it's sort of an undeveloped piece of property between a fully developed area of the waterfront and the downtown. Look at the image here, you'll see where at the top where it says community center, that's existing community center. That blue greenway trail is built, goes down right to the property border. Our property is sort of from there down to Water Street. So after we were selected, we did a series of public engagement meetings on many different topics. And we ended up sort of getting very broad support for what we were planning. The mixed-use development, primarily affordable housing, 109 total apartments, 108 apartments and rental apartments in a superintendent unit. And finishing the Greenway Trail that had been proposed and never completed. For all of that, this is a contaminated brownfield site that Con Ed was responsible for cleaning up and never had cleaned it up. So as a part of what we did, we entered into an arrangement with Con Ed where we took over the responsibility of cleaning the site up because otherwise the site couldn't be redeveloped. And we went through the approval process on this for a couple of years in the village. As a part of all of that, we had conversations with the village, also with the school district and the town about what we would need to do in terms of the real estate taxes, and developed this the latter, which is essentially the land disposition agreement with the village, had as a part of it our pilot payment that we would have in this document. Then the hardest part of all of this is sort of during COVID, making this all work financially, because costs went up dramatically, but we're able to do it. We got to a point where we're now closing on the property and starting construction. We're actually closing next Friday. So let me just tell you about the components of development. So what you're looking at now is the built development, and on the north side of the brook is a parking structure. South side is our 109 unit building with various things in the building, including a community space that we're building and giving to the village to program. Between the two, there's Sing Sing Kill, they're restoring the walls, building a linear park that'll be open to the public, and extending what is showing on this yellow as the greenway that we connect to the existing greenway. On the parking structure, part of what we're giving to the village as a part of this transaction, 45 parking spaces in our parking structure. So The other thing to note about this is, so our company has done a lot of developments in Westchester. I think we've completed about 25 communities. Some market rate, some affordable, a lot of them affordable with a market rate component or vice versa. But we've also really specialized in sort of being on the leading edge of green construction. So for instance, we just finished development in Tarrytown, also coincidentally 109 units, the former YMCA site. That development's 100% geothermal, 100% electric. Similarly, this development will be our third 100% geothermal development, geothermal heat, hot water, and air conditioning, very large solar array on the roof of the building, and it's basically a very high performance building. Sort of interesting, and but it feels good to be doing very high performing buildings in addition to doing affordable housing. So with that, we're basically we'll be working on this development for about our construction period's a couple of years, maybe about 30 months. First 6 months is just cleaning up the site because it's a contaminated site. We can't do anything until we do that. And we're looking forward to basically welcoming people in this development in about 32 months. So the reason we're here tonight is that while the pilot has already been, the payment in lieu of tax agreement has already been adopted by the Westchester County IDA, or as town will be receiving the actual pilot payments, there's an agreement that basically town attorney will summarize better than I can, but essentially says that when you get the dollars, our payments, if and when you get them, which of course you'll get them, how you'll distribute the money to the various taxing groups. Just seeking permission, we're seeking resolution from the board tonight to just authorize supervisor to sign such a resolution once supervisor and the town attorney are satisfied with the language.
Thank you. And I do see that you added in the that if for whatever reason payment's not given, we do not have to, we're not taking responsibility for for paying the money if it doesn't come in, so that's helpful. And all right, and that should anything happen, that the pilot will be made whole before.
The pilot payments are first in priority.
Right, fine, thank you.
Payment.
Pilot payments
There
are-
are several mortgages that are funding this project. And they will have priority if project were not. But in terms of the payments that are made project, the pilot is the primary obligation. So it's a little bit nuanced in that sense. The other thing that just with the developer and the IDA over the last couple of days is because the town is going to be administering pilot, how we're going to know when that commencement date starts, because it's a kind of a complex series of potential events as it's out in the pilot agreement. So I included in the draft resolution, and I believe the IDA and the developer's attorney have also agreed to include language that there's an affirmative obligation on the developer to let the town know when those events occur. Most likely, and at the latest point in time, it would be when construction is. But there's also certain context related to the mortgages going from construction mortgage to permanent mortgage that's laid out, so that there are different events that could occur that would create that that obligation.
I'm hoping for a little bit more explanation about what exactly on. I understand that we're asking the town to administer it, but suppose we say no, then does the IDA money go away? I'm just trying to figure out conceptually what exactly we're being asked for. We're not reviewing the entire project. So what is our role precisely?
So as I understand it, and I believe we also have Ken Juris, who is attorney for developer here this evening. The The town, because the town is the assessing and collecting jurisdiction, fortunately or unfortunately, it falls on the town. Take on the obligation of having this agreement. You're not signing, you're not a party to the pilot agreement. You're just signing it as an acknowledgement. The pilot mortgage is executed by WB 30 Water Street LLC. But because you are technically the mortgagee, and we talked about this last week, it doesn't mean the town is funding this in any way, in any sort of sense that a traditional mortgagee would be. Intent of that document is to give you a secured interest in the rights of the town to receive that pilot on behalf of yourselves and all of the other taxing jurisdictions that are applicable, village, the county, and the school district. Then there's the subordination agreement, kind of goes back to what I discussed a little bit earlier, where it lays out the priority in terms of get paid first if something were to go wrong, which obviously you hope doesn't happen, but it also provides that assuming everything is going according to plan, the pilot payments are first in priority in terms of where the money goes. So it's more administrative, but it is certainly much more complex given the nature of this agreement. And perhaps I don't know if Ken Juris is available to that a little bit as well.
How are you? Okay.
And Ken Juris is from Cuddy and Fader, and he's attorney for.
Ken, can you unmute yourself?
So Christy said it accurately. This the need for the town to acknowledge some documents is really solely a function of the town being the assessing authority in connection with this transaction. The project is getting benefits through the Westchester County IDA. One of the principal benefits of working with the IDA is you have a payment in lieu of tax agreement, which requires the owner to make certain specified payments during the term of the mortgage that encumbers the project in lieu of taxes. Once there's a payment in lieu of taxes, it has to go somewhere for the payments to be then split up and distributed to the other municipalities. Because the town is the assessing authority, the Westchester County IDA requires that the payments go to the town. The town then just takes those payments and distributes them to itself, the county, the school district, and the village in the proportion that they would receive if they were otherwise just regular taxes. And so the pilot agreement is for the purpose of acknowledging that. Again, as Christy pointed out, if the payments are never made, the town doesn't have any obligation to come out of pocket to make those payments to the other municipalities. And taking the place of this statutory lien that normal real estate taxes have, there's a pilot mortgage which secures the obligation of the obligation of the owner to make those payments and the municipalities to receive them. And accompanying that pilot mortgage is an intercreditor agreement where all the mortgagees on the project, including New York State Housing Finance Agency and the County of Westchester, acknowledge that as far as priority of payments goes, the pilot payments are the first priority, and that all rents from the project would go to pay the pilot payments before they go to pay a cent under any of those mortgages. And that's the sum and substance of the agreements.
Just again, to just clarify, because I think you hit an important point. So by virtue of this being an agreement with the IDA, that's where the pilot agreement is made with the IDA?
Yes,
Thank you.
So what happens is, and Ken, please feel free to jump in, that there's going to be a land use acquisition, a lands acquisition agreement, whereby 30 Water Street LLC is going to acquire the property, and they're going to lease it to the IDA. So the IDA has an interest in it, allows the ability to have a pilot. And then there will be a sublease back to 30 Water Street LLC so that they have the ability to manage, construct, and oversee the property. So it's a pretty complex
Puzzle.
transaction, but not necessarily uncommon. But the IDA has to be integrally involved in order for the pilot to be available.
that's exactly right.
Okay, as the town administers, all of the pilot agreements that are in the community at this time, as is our charge. Good with that as soon as, trustee's good with the language. You know, as long as the town's not on the hook and it's, you know, our responsibility to administer them. Sorry, Martha, we'll give you another one. Kind of complex. Other board members. I do have a couple of little questions just about the project, that I'm not remembering the details. How many parking spaces have in total?
More than we need, but a lot. I don't remember the number. 199.
Okay,
The reason there's so many is that 45 of them are going to the village. So they're not our spaces. They're really the village's spaces where we're done.
couldn't fit one more to make it, no kidding. And as you're, strengthening the wall along the kill there, which I'm sure at desperately done, will you be widening that area to mitigating the water that comes
Uh,
down?
As a part of our approval process with the village, the village engineer was very involved in doing things to slow the water down, to slow the velocity down. So there are many different stormwater improvements to doing and when I was describing the public improvements that the village is getting out of this, it's more than like quote unquote the village, it's really the community is getting these stormwater improvements, which will hopefully mitigate, well, certainly will mitigate to a certain extent, some of the problems they have with flooding down there.
Good, because that, I think that's great. You know, we have people who lose cars at the train station sometimes when the floodwaters come, and the boat clubs take a hit. Boat. So I think that's another a
Yeah.
good part of the project, and I thought that was included.
And actually, as I'm glad you brought that, I mean, we've been in this now for years. It's amazing. Seems like yesterday, but 5 years, there's been a lot of storms in that 5 years. We've sort of seen what it is we're trying to achieve. Right.
And I was at the opening of your geothermal wells, so how many wells did you end up with?
Well, because of the legislation that got passed, we're less than we normally would have been in Tarrytown. We're 46 wells here. What do we? We're around 30 wells here because we can now go deeper, which is a much more efficient way to do it.
I have a question. I've got a 68-page document here that I haven't finished, and I have to keep my dictionary beside me to try to get through. And then I look at the resolution and I realize I haven't any idea how it connects to the document, an agreement between the IDA and the 30 Water Street LLC. Well, I understand that assurance from legal perspective that town isn't on the hook in this agreement. I just don't understand why we didn't have a little more time to try to get through this and understand it. This presentation is coming kind of late in the game, in my opinion, and I'm not sure what happened. Wondering if you could explain that.
I think, frankly, I think you're right, and I'm sorry that that happened. I think the unique circumstance here where your board was involved in, town was involved in this in the last 5 years, doesn't change the fact that when Westchester County IDA Bond Council came to your board meeting recently, that was very sort of sudden and abrupt. I wish it hadn't happened that way. Frankly, it should have happened before that. Because you're not approving this in the sense that you're like an approval authority on the land use or on anything. But you're really approving this strictly because you're receiving the taxes and they have to go get sent to the taxing jurisdictions as per what was just explained. And I think we all didn't give that enough of an understanding that notwithstanding that's all you're quote unquote doing, you still have the right to really understand what the project was and what we were doing, especially because a lot of board members here are new. We're not here 5 years ago. So I absolutely agree that this should have gotten to you sooner. I'm sorry that it didn't.
Just to clarify that is that Councilman Weiss referred to are the 3 documents that were sent to the board that are referenced in the resolution, but they are lengthy and dense documents, and they also cross-reference the LATA acquisition. I don't even.
Land agreement.
Thank you.
Another 150-page document.
Exactly, which I saw for the first time yesterday. So that is why the resolution that was drafted was framed that it authorizes the supervisor to sign it only if and when supervisor and I are comfortable with the substance. I have done a preliminary review and I have had lengthy conversations with the village manager, who's also here, with Ken Juris, the developer's attorney, as well as the developers who are here. And I wouldn't have prepared this resolution if I didn't think that we were headed in that direction. But obviously, it's ultimately up to the board what you want to do.
Thank you for going through that document. Fun.
I have a question for Christy. Christy, so we make the school board school tax whole every year, right? This is pretty much our exposure, right? I mean,
No,
that's
no exposure.
no exposures.
No exposure. This is not like regular. That was the supervisor's first question, and that was something that was very clearly clarified. And even though it was kind of understood in the documents, we asked for additional language that both the Mr. Jurist and the IDA's attorney who you spoke with last week have both agreed to add express language that says that if the pilot is not made, the pilot payment in lieu of taxes is not made, the town has no obligation to then come out of pocket, make the other taxing. That was incredibly important and was made expressly clear.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, we have public comments on agenda items. Visitors shall be accorded 1 4 minutes opportunity to address the board on any of the resolutions on the agenda. Do you have anybody online that would like to speak at this point? No, okay. Board resolutions, approval of minutes, September 24, 2024. Resolved that the town board of Town of Austin hereby approve the September 24, 2024 minutes of the regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of voucher detail report. Resolved that the town board of Town of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated October 8th, 2024 in the amount of $629,968.08. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Personnel appointment, Town Supervisor's Office, Confidential Secretary. Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Austining appoints Evan Rodriguez Austining to the position of Confidential Secretary in the Town Supervisor's Office effective October 7, 2024 at the annual salary as amended of $44,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing supervisor to execute agreements related to payment in lieu of taxes for 30 Water Street. Whereas in response to a request for qualifications issued by the Village of Austining Village in 2019, Wilder Balter Partners, Inc., Wilder Balter, was selected to redevelop a contaminated and underutilized parcel not currently on the tax roll known as 30 Water Street, Section 89.19, Block 6, Lots 1 and 2, located in the incorporated village, the property. And whereas Wilder-Balter has received all necessary land use approvals to improve and develop the property as follows: environmental cleanup under the New York State DEC Brownfield Cleanup Program, 108 affordable apartments between 30 and 80% area median income AMI, plus 1 superintendent's unit, providing an opportunity for families of various income levels to live there. The completion of the Greenway extension connecting the village center to the Ossining waterfront, 45 parking spaces in the property's parking garage, 3,750 square feet of indoor community space, which will be programmed by the village for public use, a linear park open to the public, many sustainable features in the residential building, including geothermal heating and cooling, a large solar array, and high-efficiency equipment, stormwater improvements on village-owned land, collectively the project. Whereas in order to facilitate the objectives of this project, Wilder-Balter's affiliate, WB 30 Water Street LLC, WB will acquire the property from the village and enter into an agreement with the Westchester County Industrial Development Agency, IDA, which in sum and substance gives the IDA an interest in the property in order to allow WB to avail itself of the ability to make annual payments in lieu of taxes pilot instead of paying real property taxes. And whereas as the assessing and collecting jurisdiction, the town is being asked to execute the following: pilot agreement between the IDA and WB as an acknowledgement, but not as a party to the agreement. Pilot mortgage between the IDA and WB as mortgagors, with the town's acknowledgement as mortgagee. Or WB's obligation to make the pilot in the town's and the village's county of Westchester's and the Ossining Union Free School District's interest in receiving same. Subordination intercreditor agreement and consent to encumber between the New York State Housing Finance Agency, WB, County of Westchester, the town, Webster Bank NA, and the IDA subordination agreement. Collectively, the proposed agreements. Whereas the pilot will be $228,900 for year 1, beginning at the latest upon the completion of construction of the project, and increase annually to a payment of $529,418 in year 30. And whereas under the proposed agreements, WB will be responsible for paying the annual pilot to the town, and the town will be responsible for distributing to all of the applicable taxing jurisdictions their respective portions their respective proportionate share of the pilot. I apologize. And whereas while the town has been designated as the mortgagee, this is solely for the purpose of WB providing the town with a secured interest in the pilot on behalf of all of the applicable taxing jurisdictions, but the town will not be providing any money or other resources to fund the project. And whereas the other applicable taxing jurisdictions also have the right and ability to enforce the pilot agreement and pilot mortgage as third-party beneficiaries, and the town is under no obligation to do so. And whereas should the town not receive a pilot in any given year, the town shall have no obligation to disperse its own funds to compensate the other applicable taxing jurisdictions for the amounts owed. And whereas while the town's pilot mortgage is subordinate to certain mortgage loans WB is receiving to fund the project, the pilot has priority right of payment over all other mortgage loans. And now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the proposed agreements in a form consistent with this resolution and in a form satisfactory in substance to the council, to the town, and the town supervisor. And be it further resolved, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor, town council, and any other applicable town officers, employees, and/or agents to execute any documents necessary to facilitate recording the executed agreements with the county clerk and collect and distribute the pilot. And be it further resolved, WB shall immediately notify the town when the events provided in the pilot agreement occur, such that year 1 of the pilot agreement commences. Do I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't want to say. To have saying, no,
Doesn't,
no.
I'm a no.
Resolution to urge EPA to adopt a non-protective determination and its third 5-year review concerning the Hudson River PCV cleanup. Whereas the Hudson River is an American Heritage River and the Hudson River Valley is a National Heritage Area, the health and beauty of the Hudson River is critical to the economic vitality of the community surrounding. And whereas the 30 years of 1947 to 1977 General Electric GE dumped polyclinic PCBs into the Hudson River from two capacitor manufacturing plants located in the towns of Fort Edward and Hudson Falls, New York. And whereas as a result of GE and PCB contamination, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, designed a 200-mile stretch of the Hudson River from the Port Edward and North Harbor to the Superfund sign in 1984. And whereas PCV are man-made bioaccumulative persistent organic pollutant and have been linked to wide variety and adverse health effects, including, among other, cancer, liver, and kidney disorder, reduced birth weight, conception rate, and labor rates, persistent and significant deficit of neurological development, including visual recognition and short-term memory and learning, and development problems due to interface with the thyroid hormone levels. And whereas PCVs discharged by GE are still found in danger levels throughout the Hudson River ecosystem and as far south of New York Harbor as solid sediments within the river and surrounding full plains and living tissue wildlife from low-level organisms to larger animals such as birds and fish and periodically suspended into river itself in the air. And whereas in 2002, EPA selected a two-part cleanup plan to address in-river sediments to Upper Hudson River and 40-mile stretch in the Hudson River between Fort Edward and Federal Dam at Troy, which called for targeted for PCV contaminated sediments for the river bottom, followed by the extended period of natural recovery. And whereas the select cleanup remedy was designed to reduce the dangers, healthy risks to humans and wildlife living nearby the Hudson River PCV's Superfund site and expanding time frame and reestablishing the ecological and economic health of the Hudson River. And whereas EPA's original cleanup plans also focus on minimizing the long-term downstream transport of PCVS on the lower Hudson River at 160-mile stretch on the Hudson River from the Federal Dam to Troy, at Troy to the New York Harbor. And whereas with the completion of dredging in 2015, the cleanup has transitioned from the drainage phase to the natural recovery phase. And whereas federal Superfund law required EPA to conduct a study every 5 years to evaluate an implementation and performance of the remedy to determine if the remedy is protective of human health and the environmental. And whereas in July 10, 2024, EPA released its draft of third 5 years review, concluding that EPA needs more years of fish data to determine if the cleanup is meeting the expectation of the original cleanup plan. And whereas EPA drafts third 5 years review report does not adequately address scientific data and analysis that shows that there has been tidal improvement in fish and sediment PCV concentration since the completion of, and whereas the PCV concentration in Upper Hudson River fish and sediment are not declining and anticipated by EPA to reach key remediation targets and adequately minimize the downstream transport of PCVS and the lower Hudson River. And whereas the continued presence of PCVS in the Hudson River has significantly diminished economic activity and recreational use and enjoyment of the river. And whereas the understanding of the relationship between how much PCV was left behind in the sediments and the rates of recovery in sediments and fish needs to be updated to determine if future remedy works necessary to protect human and environmental health. And whereas data available support to conclusion that the select remedy is not protective of humans' health and the environment, the human health and ecological risk, as well in excess of APA's acceptable risk range and will navigate an acceptable range for the foreseeable future. And now therefore will for the resolve that the town of Austin hereby urges the EPA to adopt a non-protective determination and the third 5-year review and acknowledge the failure to Upper Hudson River remedy to meet the goals and objectives of the cleanup, and EPA must begin the process of assessing additional remedial actions to protect the environmental and our vulnerable communities along the Hudson River who will otherwise continue to be exposed to the toxic levels of PCBs and generations to come. Before the resolve, the copy of this resolution will be sent to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Region 2, and Hudson River Field Office, New York State Governor Kathy Hochul, New York State Officer of Attorney General, New York State Department of Environment Conservation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mhm. Monthly report, resolved that the town board of Town of Austin hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of September 2024. Cemetery, Highway Department, Supervisor's Office, Tax Receiver, Town Building Department, and Town Clerk. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Visitor recognition, visitors shall be accord 1 4-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not related to the agenda, but relevance of the common good of the town. Do we have anybody online that would like to speak? No. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn to executive session for advice of counsel and contracts?
So moved.
Second.
Is that right?
Is that-
All in favor? Need to
Aye.
amend that. Aye.
Aye.
Motion.
Hold on.
The motion
Never
for
mind.
exec.
Aye.
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 Again.
Aye.
Can amend it next week. All right, anyway, thank you for joining us. Our prayers go out to anybody in Florida who is in the path of that storm or stuck on the road trying to get out of the path of that storm, as well as all people in danger around the world. Have a good night, and we will see you next week. Thank you.